The Great Gatsby is set in the 1920s, not long after the end of the First World War. The war has a significant impact on the plot of the novel, and many of the characters were directly involved. Today we're going to cover the USA's involvement in the Great War, and show you why it's relevant to the Great Gatsby.
World War I started when the Archduke of Austria-Hungary was assassinated by Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian man. This assassination took place in Bosnia on the 28th of June, 1914. Within a week of the occurrence of this assassination, Belgium, France, Russia, Great Britain, and Serbia allied up against Austria-Hungary and Germany. The war ended up lasting until 1918.
So now you may be asking yourself, how is the USA involved in World War I? Well, when World War I broke out, the US tried to remain neutral until 1917. However, they ended up joining due to the increased aggression of the Germans. The United States entered the war on the side of the Allied powers, which consisted of the United Kingdom, France, and Russia. This is because Germany announced that states such as Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico would soon become a part of Mexico if the Germans won the war. Also, an increase in U.S. submarine attacks, as well as the threat of losing 3 states, led the United States Congress to join the war against Germany on April 6, 1917. Propaganda was used as a method to inspire people to join the war. Therefore, 1.3 million men and 20,000 women were enlisted in the war. Women were given important roles within the war, which led to women being allowed to vote because of the 19th Amendment that passed in 1920. After the war, African Americans and German Americans were subjected to violence because they were seen as enemies to the United States.
So how did the United States' involvement in the war affect the characters in The Great Gatsby? It's known from the first few chapters that Nick and Gatsby, 2 of the 3 main male characters in the story, participated in the Great War. In Chapter 1, Nick makes a slightly discomforting statement, claiming he enjoyed the war.
I enjoyed the counter raid so thoroughly that I came back restless.
This could mean one of 2 things. Option 1, Nick is a murderous psychopathic war hero. Or 2, the men didn't do too much real fighting during their time in service. Option 2 appears again when Nick meets Gatsby for the first time. The war stories that they bond over aren't tales of epic battles and life and death moments. They're more about the wet, grey villages that they toured while in France. Some war. In fact, very rarely in the book do any of the former soldiers mention any battles that they fought in, or tell stories from their time in the war. This ties in with how the USA participated in World War I. Not really participating in the main event, but showing up for the after party anyways. The rumors that Gatsby attended Oxford University proved to be true, also as a direct result of the First World War. The soldiers in the US Army were given the opportunity to attend Oxford, at least in the universe of The Great Gatsby.
That is not correct.
There's no historical evidence of US troops being given education at any European countries during their time in service. This could just be an interesting point that F. Scott Fitzgerald added to the plot, or the 5-month attendance at Oxford was really just another lie in Gatsby's elaborate design of his own character. Do you think Gatsby could have lied about attending Oxford at all? Take a few minutes to discuss with your groups, and take it up in a small class discussion. So now that we know how the war affects Gatsby in the novel, what about some other characters? Who else is impacted or plays a role in the Great War? Surprisingly, one character who plays a historical part is Daisy. When we hear the backstory behind her love affair with Gatsby, we find out that Daisy was commonly found dating and spending time with soldiers who were heading off to the war. The term for girls like Daisy in World War I was charity girls. Charity girls caused a big problem for the US government during the Great War. The country was trying to promote the idea of the clean soldier, someone who was focused on only training in battle without being distracted by significant others and the idea of sexual activity. According to the New York Times, these so-called purity campaigns, launched by the government, led to over 30,000 women being detained. These women were accused of being charity girls. In addition to the promotion of clean soldiers, the purpose of this crackdown on sexual activity between soldiers and citizens was to reduce the spread of sexually transmitted infections. That marks the end of our presentation, so now let's see if any of you were paying attention. Antonio is going to run a short game of Kahoot, and whoever wins gets a free lunch date with Mr. Gallivan.